Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Brad, and with me, as always, is Jamie, and this is the Conspiracy Juice Bar. Today's episode, Jamie's going to lead the charge. He has found
It's America's greatest and oldest, one of its oldest ghost stories, the Bell Witch.
yeah, it's crazy. I've been reading the book. So there's a book written in the late 1800s on the Bell Witch. I've been reading that, and it's actually what got Jamie interested in this whole thing when he was 5 years old, just a wee little tot, hanging out at the public library. Ran across the book, and
Wasn't allowed to read ghost books when I was a kid
well, how'd you read this book?
at the library.
Oh, you had to read it at
I was
the
a
library?
latchkey kid.
What's that?
Both your parents worked, so you just go home after school, you go wherever.
Yeah.
So we had the Boys and Girls Club, the library. That's about it.
Good thing you didn't hang out any places to get you in any kind of trouble back then.
It was D.C. There was a lot of places to get in trouble. There was crack.
Epstein Center.
Epstein Center for boys
You didn't hang out there, did you?
and little girls.
You didn't hang out there, did you?
No, I think it was a different clan of the Epsteins.
The new Epsteins.
I think they were the non-molester Epsteins.
Non-molesters.
Yeah, the non-molesters.
All right, so let's jump in it here.
Let's jump in.
Tell us, what are we talking about?
So it all started in 1817
Where at?
on the Bell Farm in northern Tennessee.
What part? What north? Like, so.
It's like 40 miles northwest of Nashville.
Okay. This is
So going towards Kentucky.
Central Tennessee?
North Central.
Okay.
Near the
It was like Robertsonville?
the Red River.
Robertsville or Robertson or something? Adams?
Adamsville.
All right.
Adamstown. Well, this is my little synopsis. Is that right? Synopsis?
It is today, man.
Abbreviated version.
Yeah, that's what we'll go with. It sounds
Okay.
good to me.
So anyway, John Bell, not Ball.
John Balls.
Yeah, his balls were blue. Or
Were
his
they?
bells were. His bells were blue.
Bluebells.
He was a farmer. One day he was out tending his land when he came across a giant black beast, unlike anything he had ever seen. It had the body of a large dog and the head of a grotesque snarling rabbit.
Snarling rabbit?
Yeah, a dog and a rabbit combined.
That wouldn't scare me.
Don't you think maybe this has to do with folklore?
Maybe.
Or was it a hellhound?
I thought the rabbit had antlers.
That's a jack-a-rabbit.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a jacko
So
rabbit.
what kind of dog, though? Is it like a beagle?
Well, he just said a grotesque.
Or has that been run over by a car?
Like grotesque.
Does that mean it's
Large.
been run over by a car?
Could have been a boar.
Could have been a boar.
He was confused.
And this was in the early 1800s, so maybe they didn't know yet. You know?
Well, maybe they didn't know about boars. It was
But
18
this is Tennessee, so
near Kentucky.
yeah, so it could.
We're there, you know.
We've been there. Yeah, this is.
Yeah, we're your first cousin you can marry there.
Yeah, this is back. This is kind of like Arkansas.
Well, John Bell, he ran to home and got his gun, which would probably be a Kentucky long rifle in 1817.
Black powder.
Yeah, black powder. And he hurried back to where the beast was still waiting. Wow. Sit, beast. Sit.
Good beast.
Good beast. Good beast. Wow. He took aim at the beast and he fired. But when the smoke cleared, definitely black powder.
Right.
The beast was gone, having left no sign that it had ever been there. That's worrisome. I mean, you come cruising down.
And this is right after he moved on the property, right?
Yeah.
So you move in somewhere in day one. Well,
You see a grotesque black dog rabbit head beast.
You think it's like a rabbit head, like in cartoonish on a grotesque dog, or
I don't know.
rabbits have little heads too, so that would be kind of creepy looking.
I mean, I got a whole theory about this story that we'll talk about at the end.
Well, carry on.
We'll carry
let me
on.
interrupt you.
Well, a few days later, his daughter, young Betsy Bell, and her two younger brothers were out wandering in the woods. It's kind of dangerous in 1817, don't you think? I mean,
it's probably less dangerous then than it is now.
Jackson hadn't rounded up the Indians and ran them to Oklahoma yet. I mean, couldn't you get scalped?
There's a possibility.
I mean, isn't this the days of Daniel Boone?
Yeah, but I mean, just around the family farm, I think they should be okay.
Well, they came across.
They didn't have TV.
I think the story was their TV.
Yeah.
Because they came across a hanging girl. I don't know if she was, it doesn't say whether it was like she was in a noose hanging or just swinging from a branch.
Swinging from her feet.
But she's a hanging girl. And the closer they got to her, they saw that her face was deathly white. Her eyes had sunken into the back of her head from the sockets. They poured out 2 steady streams of tears. That's really gross.
Yeah, I don't think I'd have
So
got any. I wouldn't have gotten closer.
Yeah.
Like, I would have bolted.
Well, they were so frightened they immediately ran home to tell their parents what they had seen. Their parents forbade them to mention the incident to anyone else in the community for fear that people may think that their family had been dealing with witchcraft or black magic.
Because this is around the time of the Salem witch trials.
It's like 100 years later.
Yeah.
It's not like too far
So it ain't that far removed. I mean, there's still people alive who witnessed the witch
they're
trials.
older. They're like, oh, burn them at the stake.
Well, they're the ones who are making the decisions, probably, the older people.
Well, you see, John Bell was a little worried because he had just had a legal issue with this lady. Her name was Kate Burns.
Kate Burns.
Batts, not
Cat.
Burns.
Burns is from Simpsons.
Cat Burns.
Kate
Cat.
Kate Batts.
Kate accused John of usury.
A usurer?
That means, biblically, that means you charge too much interest.
Oh, okay.
On a loan. And he was convicted of usury. And he had to give up a large portion of his holdings to Kate. But Kate was unsatisfied. She waited to see John ruined. And as she was leaving the courthouse, she cursed him, saying, "John Bell, you're an evil man, and something bad will happen to you and another member of your family." She just said it. Don't you think you'd go, John Bell, oh, I trust you. But no,
because she was a witch, right?
Well, we didn't even know she was a witch at that time. He didn't know she was a witch. But one night shortly after the trial, the entire Bell household was awakened by the sound of rocks being thrown against the windows and walls of their house. John Bell was the first one up, and he rushed to his window. There was no one outside, yet the noise continued. Each night, something new was added. First, there was the sound of cats and dogs fighting in their yard, but that could have been real. Dark. It's not like...
Could have been the rabbit-headed dog.
It's not like your...
Maybe a rabbit-headed dog makes cats and dog noises.
It's not like your Ring recorded it. You could have watched it on your app.
Yeah, I know. It makes things so much easier. You can prove things so much easier nowadays.
Then the distinct sound of footfalls on the roof. So someone's walking on the roof.
It's Santa.
Finally, the spirit came into the house. It began to pull the bed sheets from the children and make sounds of gnawing and scratching at their bedpost. When the children would wake up from the noise, they lit their candles, but there was never anyone there, and their bedposts were unscathed. Upon blowing out their candles, the noise would return. One night it got to the point where the family couldn't stand it anymore. They were awakened by shrieks coming from young Betsy Bell's room. John Bell was again the first to arrive at the door to his daughter's room, just in time to see her head smack from one side to the other, and her cheek begin to turn bright red.
Oh, so like the spirit slapped her.
This is where I get suspicious, and I was not suspicious when I was younger.
You wouldn't have been suspicious at the girl hanging from the tree?
We're bringing up Epstein, right?
Yeah.
Pops was always the first one to get there.
I don't know. That's a stretch.
We're talking rural.
Yeah.
Let's bring something up that this won't bring up. He married his wife when he was 35 and she was 12.
Okay, that's how they rolled back then.
Yeah, but don't you think Betsy might have been
That's
getting
his
a little attractive after his wife popped out for her?
It's his daughter. I'm not going there.
I'm just saying.
I mean, yeah, you be the only one speculating that. I've read a lot about this witch
Other
story
people have
too.
speculated it.
Well, just on your Reddit pages.
John Bell realized at this point he could not keep it a secret any longer. So he called his close friend and neighbor, Mr. James Johnston. James came to the house the next night and sat with the family around dinner table and made a fervent prayer for whatever was tormenting this God-fearing family to please leave them alone. Unfortunately,
Wasn't he a minister?
he was. Unfortunately, the spirit didn't listen. And that night they were awakened by shrieks coming from young Betsy Bell's room. This time, James Johnston was the first one to get there. Which means he must have spent the night, right?
Yes. But I know where your mind's going.
He threw the door open.
Or was he already in there?
Just in time to see her being pulled from her bed by her hair. And as she dangled midair, her face was repeatedly slapped back and forth. Sounds familiar. Huh. Multiple times, and then James Johnston shouted, "Demon, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I send you to hell." Betsy's head fell back to the floor and there was silence. But out of the silence came a whisper. "Demon, in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, I send you to hell."
So she was mocking him.
So the demon repeated what he said.
She was mocking him.
Uh-huh. That's not what I've been taught would happen if you believe in Jesus Christ and you cast a demon. From that night on, the Bell House would never be without visitors. People came from near and far to witness and to speak with the demon. John Bell finally said, "Spirit, who are you and what do you want?" The witch said, "Because you're an honest man, I will answer you truthfully. I am the spirit of someone who was happy, but who has been disturbed." Okay. Didn't say you pissed him off. I will not rest until you, John Bell, are in your grave. Wow.
So he's mad at her. No, she's mad at him.
Uh-huh, the witch is.
But so was Kate Batts,
Mm-hmm.
the town witch, or who they accused of being a witch. We don't know that Kate Batts was actually
There's no
a witch.
indication that Kate Batts is a witch.
That's just a suspicion.
Other than later, the witch will say, or the ghost. I don't even know why they call it a witch.
Yeah, I never. It's a spirit. It's not even a. It's not even a legit witch. This is a spirit
or demon. Let's go with demon.
Yeah, I like.
If it's true,
but we'll go with witch.
Yeah, witch.
They chose witch, so we're stuck with it.
Shortly after, the witch declared that her intent was to kill John Bell. She also then began to attack him physically. She would swell his tongue in his throat so that it was hard for him to eat or drink. He even started having trouble breathing. At first, the attacks would only be mild and last 20 or 30 minutes, but eventually they grew until lengths. It doesn't say what lengths, just into lengths. I don't know what
That's
a length is. Is that an hour?
That's an animal.
Let's call a length an hour. So it lasts
a length
for a length.
or a length?
A length.
Length.
Yeah.
Length.
He became weaker and his sons were forced to take on the extra burden of the chores in the field.
Well, maybe that was all part of his plan. I can't breathe,
no
kids.
Way able to do it. It seems like he benefits from this.
Yeah. He took a beating, and now he don't have to do any chores.
His daughter said no. But they remained constant for John and Betsy. But she never once hurt another member of the community. Yeah, here's where it gets weird.
Yeah, it's odd that she only attacks young Betsy.
Because...
And John.
To some, the witch was pleasant.
So she had a whole...
Even flirtatious.
She had a whole period there where she was, like, super cool.
Well, she even saved some lives.
Yeah, she was, like, ratting out the bad people of the community there for a while, too. Like, nobody in the community wanted to do anything bad because they were scared Kate would see them and tell on them.
But was she protecting these people? Was John Bell a bad man?
I mean it.
Because listen, one time, Lucy, John Bell's wife, fell ill. Her two sisters came to visit, but had no idea how to cure her. Then one evening, while the sisters sat up by Lucy's side, the witch's voice came to them and instructed them that the secret cure to Lucy's illness could be found in her favorite foods. The sisters were about to say they had no idea what Lucy's favorite foods were, when from above them and out of nowhere, a shower of grapes and hazelnuts rained down on them.
Yeah.
Lucy Bell then began to eat them, and within a few days, were back to normal.
Would you eat hazelnuts and grapes that rained out of thin air?
I think Nutella's made out of hazelnuts. They're pretty good.
It's
Like chocolate hazelnut.
You think that's where Prince got the idea for that song, Purple
Rain? Yeah, I think so.
I mean,
he read The Bell Witch because the book was written in what, 1897?
Yeah, 91.
91, 97.
Same thing.
Olden days.
6 years different.
Olden days.
6 years of a long time ago.
Still no cars.
Yeah.
Riding your pony to work. Then there's another story, which this is a little weird to me. It's a little boy who led a group.
Wasn't?
Yeah, well, they're all kind of weird. A little boy led a group of children into the cave. He was about 20 yards ahead of them, but he had the only candle. After a short while, he came to a point in the cave where it dipped down, and he noticed a hole in the wall. Being a curious young boy, he stuck his head through the wall to see what was on the other side.
No, I'm not. You're never that curious. Like,
all he saw was darkness.
Mind your own business.
He didn't reach up and go through the hole with his candle. He just stuck his head in a dark hole. Sounds dumb.
Yeah, well, he's a kid.
Yeah, I don't know if I was that dumb when he's like 8 or 9 years old.
Yeah. I'm sure you are.
All he saw was the darkness in another part of the cave.
You never stuck your hand in a dark hole?
Yeah.
Or your hand, like, under a rock? We have copperheads in the South.
You never, moccasins if it's wet. So
you never stuck your hand in. Well, you never went noodling for catfish.
I've been noodling.
Okay, then you're just as dumb as this kid.
Pretty much.
I mean, I'm right there with you. I've done it too. So
he tried to pull his head out and realized it was stuck. But in his panic, he dropped the candle and went out. So now him and all these kids are in the cave, total darkness.
With one light? I mean, you'd think you'd have brought more than one candle.
Well, then he started screaming, "Help! Someone help me! Help! Help! Help!" The other kids, because of the echoing, didn't know where he was. They couldn't find him.
Well, that's because his head was stuck into a hole.
And the kids were not like this grotesque beast that was half bat, half rabbit.
Yeah.
They couldn't figure out by the echoes which was the true one. But suddenly a ball of light appeared around the rest of the children. It led them to this nitwitty kid that stuck his head in a hole.
So they saved him.
Well, it appears that she likes children and women.
Except for
John Bell.
And his daughter Betsy.
Yeah. Well, I got a theory about that.
Well, I've already heard it.
The children followed the light. When they got to the little boy, they pulled him out. They don't say how they got his head out. No.
He's probably a little fat kid.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of like Neville.
He finally came free.
Longbottom.
Yeah. Then the witch and the ball of light guided the children to the entrance of the cave.
Yeah, I mean, there was good witches. We've seen Harry Potter. There was a whole school of good witches.
But while the witch was helping other members of the community, she never once relented her attacks on Betsy Bell. In fact, they became even worse. Betsy was thrown into fits, like epilepsy. She was like,
she had a fit.
I'm not going to have spit roll out of my mouth. I should have brought a Alka-Seltzer and just put it in there.
Just while speaking, just start foaming.
Old prop. But she fell in love with this poor little boy, Joshua Gardner.
Poor guy.
Yeah, the witch didn't like John.
I think the witch didn't want to lose Betsy to John. So, John Gardner. So the witch, at this point in the story, I think, Betsy's getting older, developing, attracting young boys.
Well, it said she had.
John's a good. He's an outstanding member of the community.
5 years of haunting.
Yeah,
she put up with this, but she still grew up.
So I mean, she's 17,
to
right?
be a beautiful girl. Yeah, she was 17.
So John, but the witch is freaking out. She's like, "Wait, don't take my Betsy." So she freaks out and she's trying to break them up.
Yeah.
She's jealous. She's a jealous old hag. That's all. Because she's getting older too. Now she's an older, grumpier witch.
Well, they decided to announce they were engaged at the spring picnic. Now, it doesn't say which spring picnic, but we can assume it's all in the little, what do they call it? Holla?
Holla.
The holla there at Red River.
Holla. I thought that was how you say hello.
Oh, that's now.
Holla at your boy.
That's how the language has
Holla.
changed. It went from, I live in the holla over there.
It's holler.
Hey, ain't you see that over yonder? It's the holler. That's where I'm from.
Yeah.
Now it's like, holla.
Holla.
Peace.
Holla.
Holla. Yeah, that's how it is now. Funny how language changes.
Yeah.
The day before they announced it, the witch came to the school teacher, Mr. Robert Powell, and informed him of the engagement. Richard told the witch that he wished them the best, but the witch spoke up and said, I know, Richard Powell. Should I do a witch voice?
No.
I know, Richard Powell, that you are secretly in love with Bethany, but I've never said anything because of the great difference in age.
Yeah, he was weird though. Powell.
This is not the witch saying this, but I'm adding to her words. I know that you're 39 years old. You know her daddy married her mama when she was just 12, so I think this is okay.
No, I don't. I think the witch was encouraging that one because she didn't want.
Well, she didn't want Joshua.
John.
No, Joshua.
Well, I asked you, was it Joshua or John?
Let's
you
get
said
back.
John.
I've read this 2-3 times. Joshua. It's Joshua.
Okay, well,
Josh. Let's call him Josh.
She didn't want Josh around, so she was willing to take Mr. Powell.
She didn't want an age-appropriate boy.
Well, she knew the other people. She knew Daddy wouldn't approve of Powell, so she was going to encourage that one and run off Josh. The dad liked Josh.
I guess back then your life expectancy, especially out in the wilderness like that's what, 35, 40 years old?
I'm thinking.
So 12 years old is probably an appropriate marrying age.
Well, I mean...
Yeah, 20 years of life, you'll probably die in childbirth.
Yeah, back then that was normal, where now it's frowned upon severely.
I mean, she's popping out a baby laying there, and there's probably the witch is probably a midwife too. She shows up and...
on the side.
You know, she steps outside.
Her part-time job as a midwife.
Tells Mr. Bell, hey, Mr. Bell, she dead.
She dead.
Oh, no, I guess you're going to have to get me another wife for birthing.
Have me another.
Another birther. She had good birthing hips. It's a damn shame.
Need another
one of them good birthing hips. So the witch then pleaded with Betsy. Please, Betsy, do not marry Joshua Garner. She said it over and over again, and each time got louder. I mean, this sentence has 3 exclamation points. Please, Betsy Bell, don't marry Joshua Garner! Betsy burst into tears because she was really in love with Joshua. She knew that as long as the witch was around, she could never be happy with Joshua.
It's fact.
John Bell realized that something must be done, so he sent for the assistance of the famous Dr. Solomon Wise, who claimed to be the greatest witch doctor.
It didn't work.
So we got a ghost hunter. This is like the first evidence of a ghost hunter.
He's an OG Ghostbuster.
Yeah, he probably had a PhD in ghost busting. Just doctor.
Back then, yeah.
Well, back then, I think you just declared you were a doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, even for surgery. I got some good saws. I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
I need whiskey. Right. I don't even think they clean saws when they chopped your legs off. They just throw it in the bag.
They just throw it in the lake.
Doctor, you could probably some young innovator doctor. You need get the whiskey and clean off the blades.
I think the whiskey started with drinking it.
No, they did it like this, didn't they? Some weird
the doctor
clay jar. They race it here and go.
Yeah, the doctor would have a swig, and then the patient would have a swig,
and anyone watching would have a swig.
Because they're helping too.
Yeah.
You didn't just watch back then, like, you helped.
So Mays came there. He made his way upstairs and he began to concoct a potion that would allow them not only to hear the witch, but to see her as well. With that, he got to work mixing mainly foul-smelling vials of who knows what, till the hallway smelled of rotten eggs and spoiled milk. As he was adding some of the final ingredients, those which would be sure to drag the witch into a physical form, he was startled by a voice behind him. "That's not right," it said. He turned around, but there was no one there. So the witch was trying to help him even. No, dude. No.
She was trying to
You're
help
not
the
a
witch.
good ghost hunter, dude. No, I know
You're the
this.
first, and you failed already.
Uh-huh.
You've already failed miserably.
And then the witch said, "You're missing 3 key ingredients," said the witch. "And if the potion is to have any effect, you can't simply let the smell permeate the hallway and hope that it will drive me into sight. You must aerate the potion and then spray it on my being." It's just kind of like on the Invisible Man, if you got smoke or threw paint on it, you'd see an outline.
So you think that's what would happen here?
Well, I think that's what the witch was telling them.
Well, like, she's going to tell him how to do it, really. Like,
So Dr. Mize began spraying the potion to his left and right, and then sprayed the entire hallway to begin. Meanwhile, the witch snuck around him and said, "Dr. Mize, you're an idiot."
you missed. She called him an idiot. That's awesome.
She then lifted the remainder of his potion out of his hands and dumped it onto the doctor's head. He quickly realized that ridding the household of the witch was far beyond his means. He ran from the upstairs hallway, leaving very foul smell odor behind, ran outside, hopped on his horse, and was off riding.
Slowly galloped off.
Yeah. It says the witch then spooked the horse so badly that it threw Dr. Mize and raced off into the night.
Then he had to walk home with poopy britches.
Mm-hmm.
Because of a foul-smelling odor, so he crapped himself.
That was
Then he jumped on a horse. Like, dude, it would be really bad to crap your pants. But then to jump on a horse, and I don't know that they even had saddles back then, did they?
Yeah, they had saddles. Okay. Yeah.
I wasn't around.
I think in the Middle Ages they came up with saddles. I think it was actually
but he had
the Iranians or something.
crap in his pants, and he jumps on the saddle, and then she knocks him off, so now he's got everywhere.
They never heard from him again. He scared the shit out of the guy, basically. Yes, exactly.
Legit.
So we got the first ever ghost hunter.
Yeah, we got the first ghost hunter.
So this guy, if he was alive now, would be on the Travel Channel 24/7.
Oh, yeah. With 3 different shows.
Yeah. Uh-huh. But unfortunately for him, YouTube, thank you all YouTubers for watching us, but YouTube wasn't here.
Poor guy.
Yeah, after he ran off chicken shit, he could have come back and done a YouTube show.
After he pooped himself.
Yeah, I pooped myself.
Went doo-doo.
A few weeks later, another famous visitor came to the Bell household. What's funny is we don't know of Dr. Mize's name anymore. I Googled him.
He's not even around.
He's not like famous witch doctor or famous witch hunter or ghost hunter. There's no, of course it is like 1820 at this point. There's nothing, he didn't build a name for himself. This probably ruined him.
He should have advertised.
Yeah. That's like showing up to kill a vampire without a wooden stake. I mean,
it's got to come from the white oak tree, though. If you're going to use a wooden stake to kill a vampire, it has to come from the white oak.
I didn't know that.
Yep. If it doesn't come from the white oak, it won't kill the originals.
You know who showed up?
Who?
General Andrew Jackson, soon to be president, the 7th president of the United States.
Mr. Jackson.
Yep.
President Jackson.
John Bell had fought under General Jackson during the War of 1812. And when the general learned of what was happening to one of his former soldiers, he immediately rushed to the Red River to offer what aid he could.
He just wanted to see it. He didn't believe it. He thought it was BS. He's like, I'm going to go down there and check it out.
There's already people
There's no way this is real. I'm going to go check it out.
What's crazy is John Bell, all these people just wanted to see the witch. So it was like a circus sideshow.
They would camp out in his lawn. He should have run for Congress.
You know, he told them he'd feed them while they were there.
Yeah, but where did he make money at?
He was actually very successful.
I know he was rich.
Well, this is not saying He owned 9 slaves.
Yes.
And we'll find out later, Kate was very racist.
Okay.
She hated slaves. Actually, we can just go there.
Let's go.
She hated slaves or
Okay.
black people. I don't know if she hated that they were slaves or she just hated black people. She could have been racist or maybe she could have been an abolitionist. I don't know. But she hated them. To the point, John Bell brought in his 9 slaves into the house because they noticed
She wouldn't come around.
Kate hated the black people.
She'd stay away.
She made them leave their quarters and he made them and lay out on the floor
to keep her away.
Yeah, can you imagine? You were hating on John Bell. If you were one of his slaves.
She probably didn't like him. I mean, she's a witch, so she's going to be mean and rude and horrible. So yeah, it makes sense.
There is some things out there in the internet that say that the transaction that Kate sued John Bell for usury. Some say a horse, some say a slave. Unfortunately, at that time,
records were scarce.
You own you own people, which is weird to us in the 20th century, 21st century. But you could just do it with a transaction.
Yeah, but so my thought is, if she was a witch,
what if she was a Quaker witch?
So
she hated slavery too.
So my thought is, John pissed off Kate Batts.
Right.
Kate Batts is a witch, suspected witch,
and she sued him and won a court case.
So, but then she stood outside and told him she was going to kill him.
She hated him, yeah.
That she hated him. So I'm thinking she conjured up a spirit from witchcraft world, sent it over to John's house.
But do you really believe that? Because let's think about it. How come?
No, I don't believe any of this thing. It's
how come we don't have BS. Witchcraft world right now?
That's why I think we have TV. We don't need.
Well, I think this was.
We don't have to make up these elaborate stories.
TV back in the day.
That's what I mean. Yeah. We have TV now, so we don't need to make up this elaborate crap.
And if you had just gone through harvest, you got all winter with nothing to do, and you're like, I hear down there in Tennessee, like that there's this Bell family where they got a bunch of spirit stuff flying around, and you can go down and see it. Let's hop in the wagon, honey. And let's go see this witch.
They'll spend a whole season. Ghost. They'll spend a whole season down there with the witch ghost.
It take us 5 days on the wagon. Well, let's go down there. I hear John Bell will bring out some porridge for breakfast. It's continental breakfast because you know our great-grandfather was in the Continental Army.
Was this the original Wyndham?
Yeah, I think so. Wyndham.
Bell Hotels?
Yeah, Wyndham.
The Bell Motel?
The Bell Motel by Wyndham.
By Wyndham.
Yeah.
We have found the original. So there was probably prostitutes and drugs at this house too then. They had witches, prostitutes, and drugs.
Well, you know, marijuana wasn't illegal until the 1930s in the United States.
I'm thinking
it was probably mixed up by witches.
Opium. Back then was the opium dens and stuff, right?
Yeah, but people were doing the weed, man.
Okay, they were smoking the weed, but I mean, I'm saying it made them hallucinate.
And don't forget, your Coca-Cola had cocaine in it.
Okay, so they were drinking Coke.
Here.
So they were hopped up on speed.
There's some damn good Coca-Cola.
Taking opium to go to sleep and smoking weed for breakfast.
Honey,
yeah, they're hallucinating something serious.
I mean, Billy Bob up in Louisville, Kentucky's like, honey, we can get us a couple of bottles of Coca-Cola.
Stay up for 3 days.
Go down and see the Bells down there in North Tennessee.
I drank 3 Cokes to get here. 5 days, no sleep.
I'm
ready to go.
We can see the spirits and get nasty.
Yeah, I think this was more.
You're all of 13, honey.
This is more of a drug-induced. It's not that I don't believe in ghosts. Like, I believe that. And I believe they could have had a spirit in their home. But what I don't believe is everything else. Like, it's so elaborate that it's entertaining.
Well, and I'll tell you my theory at the end. We're getting close to the end. But anyway, Andrew Jackson brought, they don't give his name, a witch layer.
Layer?
L-A-Y-E-R.
Okay.
So I think you put a witch down, you know? That's what you are.
Well, he's not sleeping
so
with
you
her,
fight.
So.
Well, anyway, the witch layer talked to the witch and said, witch, I got a silver bullet in my gun.
I'm gonna lay you if you don't leave.
And the witch layer reached into his jacket. He pulled out a well-polished pistol with a sandalwood grip. Half the family burst into laughter. So the Bell family's laughing. But the witch layer said, now this may look like an ordinary gun. And it is. But he pulled out of the chamber one live, single silver bullet, and he said, this bullet will pierce anything supernatural. Be it a spook, a haint.
A haint.
A haint is a demon. It's a demon.
Oh.
Or spirit.
So it's like an evil taint.
Killing it instantly. He slipped the bullet back into the chamber, and no sooner had he done this than a voice spoke up behind him and said, oh, really? So Kate had a sense of humor. Oh, really? He turned around, but no one was there. Then the voice came from the other side of the room. I'm over here. And the witch layer began frantically pointing the gun at everyone in the room. They were all like,
well, he's only got one.
Silver's still going to kill us.
He's only got one bullet, so you got to make it count.
Suddenly the voice spoke again, saying, I'm right in front of you. He stopped and realized that he was pointing the gun directly at General Jackson. Then the witch said, if you're so sure of yourself, why don't you shoot? With the witch layer said, all right, I will. Before anyone could protest the fact that this man was about to shoot General Jackson in the face, he quickly set his sight and pulled the trigger, but nothing happened. Kate protected General Jackson.
Well, she liked him.
Do you think she put her spirit thumb over the firing pin?
Still think it's all BS, but
the bullet was lodged in the chamber.
Yeah,
he frantically began trying to fix the gun. And then the witch said, now it's my turn. Before the man could do anything else, he was suddenly swept off his feet onto the ground. The gun flew into the other side of the room, and he was lifted by his nostrils onto his tippy toes. Then the witch said, General Jackson, if you don't mind, I will remove this fraud from our little party. Wow. And with that, the man was thrown outside the front door. The witch then returned to the house and informed the general that there was another fraud in the party, and that the next night she would be sure to weasel him out as well. Fortunately, the general was only able to stay one night.
How many people came with him then?
So there were 6 friends.
Oh, okay.
6 of them are named, but not the witch layer.
So the witch layer was a fraud.
Later, someone overheard him remark that he would rather face the entire British army than have to deal with that Bell witch. Was the witch calling him a fraud?
Nah.
You don't think so?
There was probably somebody else in this group who thought they were going to be a witch slayer or whatever. I mean, you've already had the OG ghost hunter, and then you just had the dude that lays witches, and she's already thrown them off as fraud. So I'm thinking there was probably another guy in the group, and he's like, I got a theory, but I'm not going to say. He was probably from up north. He knew better than to open his mouth. Just keep his mouth shut, and he don't have to worry about anything.
Well, let's do a time thing, because we don't know how long this time is, like on Scooby-Doo. Sometime later, all of a sudden, John Bell's sick.
Well, that's what happens when you get older.
Yeah. Lucy woke up to find their husband was sleeping. She went downstairs to prepare breakfast for her family. And after all had eaten, Lucy went up to see John Bell and give him his medicine. Oh, this is Lucy Jr. He opened the medicine cabinet. Instead of finding his father's medicine, he found a small bottle, half filled with a dark liquid. He rushed to his father's room and noticed that his father was breathing heavily. His face was ashen and his eyes sunken further into his head. He tried to rouse his father, but he wouldn't move. He just continued his slow, heavy breathing. They then sent out for the school teacher. Old Richard Bell, that has the witch nose has a crush on Lucy. But what they had found out when the teacher, the Chester teacher, showed up was that John Bell had drank half the bottle of the potion.
Whiskey.
Well, it's not like we had anybody making our COVID vaccine at that time. They went to witches.
Yeah.
I mean, it's,
Witch doctor.
Yeah, basically. Or to some lady that had the gift of nature, which, what?
It's like
Witch doctor.
It's like those snake oils.
Yeah, some of them work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what's better for you than NyQuil at night when you have a cold?
What?
Whiskey, honey,
Or peppermint.
tea.
We did whiskey and peppermint when I was a kid.
Well, there you go.
I just thought it was because we was too poor to afford real medicine. So
No, that's because my grandmother, who didn't believe in imbibing, had
Okay,
a bottle of whiskey
but
for a toddy.
That's not a snake potion or a snake oil. That's like a gosh.
It helps you sleep and it opens up your sinuses because of the liquor.
Yeah, and the peppermint or the honey.
But back then you were like, dang, she's a witch. She can make a toddy.
Nah, there's old story like you take a kid down to a tree and cut their hair off and put it in the tree, and it would get rid of their asthma. And you had to buy them a dog.
Well, yeah. Well, there's still kind of stuff like that. Eye of a squirrel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eat the eye of a squirrel.
I heard that stuff.
Get superpowers.
With a family member actually being a member of the Christian faith, believing, oh yeah, you need an eye of the newt. You need the pus from the back of a frog's butt.
My grandma used that.
Little worm doo-doo.
Remember that stuff that came in a little, like, Mercurocram potion or whatever it was? You get a cut and they'd put this red stuff on you, burn like...
Oh, yeah.
It just hurts. It's like burn.
Then
like
they grew up and realized
fire.
you can just pour some peroxide on it.
Yeah. There's no reason to use turpentine.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Remember the turpentine thing? Down in my section of the woods, they have chalk mines that they send to France to make china out of. And they're still... You can go to some of these gas stations that are still owned by locals. They will sell chalk by the pound. Pregnant women are supposed to eat it too.
Really?
Yeah, that goes back to the old witch doctor days. Well, it was a few days later, old John Bell was breathing hard and he stopped breathing forever.
It happens.
And after his last breath,
It was a long time past.
there was a loud voice of a female laughing. But no body. Just, and that was it.
And then she was gone.
That was it, yeah.
Now, don't they say that, like, kids and stuff still say they hear noises in this area?
Well, what happened? Betsy, because she felt some kind of, that she owed, this teacher her life since he came to, I guess, to murder her father. Because I don't believe the witch had any powers. But he murdered her father, and then she married him instead of young Joshua.
See, I'm thinking that Betsy the daughter, or Lucy the mom, killed John Bell the father. The witch had, her whole thing was, I'll never leave until you, John Bell, are dead. So,
but now they say her spirits...
30 years later... The mama, Lucy, and the daughter, Betsy, they're just sick and tired of this crap. Betsy, she's past her prime. She done, old Joshua's moved on and found him another young hot chick and left Betsy alone, and now they're mad. So they kill John. John's no more. And the witch quits haunting them.
Years later, after she's married to the teacher, they hypnotized Betsy, the daughter. And the person that hypnotized her started asking her questions. She asked her if she heard the dogs and cats fighting in the yard. And she said yes. She was then asked, were these real cats and dogs? And Betsy said no. Then the hypnotist said, if they weren't real, how did they come about? And Betsy said, the witch. Then her husband, Richard Powell, the teacher, spoke up. Why would the witch return after being silent for so many years? And Betsy answered under hypnosis, to protect our daughter. Then Richard said, why does our daughter need protection? And Betsy said, she's pretty and she's 12. And he said, is she not safe at home with her parents who love her and care for her? And she said, she is not safe from her father.
So you think like the Bell Witch showed up to protect Betsy, but why did the witch attack Betsy all the time? That's what I don't get. Like I saw what you were where you were going with this in the beginning.
And the witch later said, because she came back to haunt, John Bell stole into his daughter's room and pulled the covers from her bed. He then began to run his hands slyly up her sides. When she was awakened by this, she went to scream, and he put his hands over her mouth and said, shh, I am your father. I only want to make you feel good. And with that, he took his hand off her mouth and bent down and put his old cracked lips up to her soft ruby ones. So Richard Powell was shocked to hear from the witch that John Bell would say any of this kind, but the witch simply said, he did the deed. What are words compared to that? After realizing that the witch had come to protect Betsy, Richard asked how John Bell had died. The witch said, I possessed young Betsy Bell and took her down to the river. There on the bank, she squeezed the nightshade into the bottle. She then returned to her father's room, where she poured the liquid down his throat. Betsy knew none of this, for she was under my control. She finished the deed and returned to the bed. Now, before I go, I will allow you one other question. Richard said, how do I convince my wife that our daughter is safe? The witch replied, when night falls, stay by your wife's side. Stay by her side until the break of dawn. With that, the voice of the spirit left the house, and that was the last anyone had heard of the Bell Witch in that home. Well, there's a cave on the property, which some say the witch went to, which is now the Bell Witch Cave. And it's something you can pay to go into now.
So you think, do you think there was ever a witch?
Here's what I think happened. We're talking 1817, right?
Yeah.
So they build this log cabin, and from pictures, there's only drawings because there's no cameras back then. But it was a very substantial 2-room cabin. I mean, it wasn't a poor person's house.
Yeah.
They didn't all sleep together in one big room. They had their own rooms. Rats had probably come in, or field mice, because they just cleared the forest to start planting their crops.
Yeah.
So the field mice came in, and they heard the field mice. Well, they didn't want to admit to their neighbors that they had not mice or rats in their house.
To call it a ghost?
Yeah, they call it a ghost.
So you think there was anything behind the whole John Bell,
Betsy? I think the story was retold over and over, and then some neighbor said, old John Bell,
he's a pervert.
He and Kate got into it. They went to court. They went to small claims court, and she won.
Yeah.
She done ripped him off with, I don't remember, it was either a slave
3 bushels,
or a horse.
Got 3 bushels of corn out of it.
And he was charging her interest for either the slave or the horse, and he was charging her 27% interest, APR. And that 27%, that's usury in the Bible.
That's inflation, man. Come on.
Because if you go to other
Bidenomics.
I'm looking up other sites and stuff. He got excommunicated from his Baptist church for usury. Now, we don't do that anymore because there's the owner of a pawn shop that goes to my church.
He does that all the time.
Hey, he charges, I think the state allows him to charge 20% per month or 24% per month. But I guess since the state allows it, that's not usury.
Well, they're getting their cut, so they don't care. That's why the mafia can't get away with it, but the pawn shop can.
And the witch immediately admitted her name was Kate. At no point did she give the last name, but people made the assumption. But it could have been Betsy.
The whole time?
Yeah, she could have been, maybe. I read in something else, completely unrelated to this, that this is when ventriloquism really came into style.
Mm-hmm.
People would go on tour, throwing their voices. Well, some people would have seances and say, they'd throw their voice around the corner. Oh, look, the spirit of your dead son's around the corner. Well, this really took off spiritualism after the Civil War. Now remember, the book was written in the 1890s. Mm-hmm. So during the Civil War, every family that was in America at that time, every family
had spirits.
Well, had a relative that had died in the war.
Yeah.
Because you fought either, like my family. My dad's family fought for the North. My mom's family fought for the South. I guarantee you, no, they're not that old. It's probably 100 years later, I think, when they met. Your family's from Georgia. I guarantee you got an ancestor, whether you know it or not, that fought in the Civil War.
I got an uncle that was mayor
of the Civil War.
In London.
He was the mayor. Oh yeah, well, your uncle, the mayor. But my theory is the story got told over and over and over again.
So it changed.
And like that stupid game,
telephone.
What we got now is these people would just show up camping. It was the KOA in his front lawn. I don't believe, and it tells you in there, I skipped it, John Bell made no profit off of this. Bullshit.
Yeah.
Bullshit.
I agree. He was making money or he wouldn't allow.
Yeah.
How could he afford to feed all these people?
And he probably didn't make money. There's probably the barter system.
He was probably selling one stolen horse over and over.
I need a gallon of your shine.
Maybe.
And I'll let you poop in my outhouse.
You think this was shine time?
Oh, yeah. Well, the whiskey rebellion.
Prohibition really took off in the 1930s. Yeah.
But we had what was called the Whiskey Rebellion in the 1790s, which, he fought with Jackson. Maybe Mr. Bell was part of the Whiskey Rebellion because it really went down on western Pennsylvania, Kentucky, and Ohio, and Tennessee.
I go back to my theory that they were smoking opium and drinking Coca-Cola.
With the cocaine?
Well, they probably weren't even doing the cocaine Coca-Cola. They was probably drinking the heads off the moonshine, getting the methanol poisoning. So they're seeing things and hearing things.
Drinking their whiskey.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's...
it could have been a neighbor was over there and he said, dang, John Bell, you got some rats in here. That ain't a rat, that's a ghost.
It's a witch.
That's a witch.
Hadn't you seen a witch?
See, they hadn't even got organized yet in their spiritualism. They're calling a ghost a witch and a witch a ghost.
I was reading it, and in the beginning, she got into it with the preachers. And she would go to the different Baptists.
She would quote verses to them.
Yeah,
out of the Bible.
There was two major churches in this town. One was Methodist, and one was Baptist. So she would go to both services, and she would learn this scripture, and then she would quote it back at the pastors of each service. And this is back when she was kind of being a good witch and looking out for everybody. Then she made the mistake one day of going to the Baptist and the Methodist service at the same time.
Wow.
She went crazy after that.
It really doesn't. That's crazy. You don't really hear spirits splitting themselves.
Not to go to church.
Wow.
But she went. I don't think she was a bad witch. I don't think she was abusing young Betsy.
I don't think she was a witch.
I don't think she existed.
I think Betsy was a ventriloquist.
I think they made all this up because they were alcoholics hooked on the opium.
Maybe her father.
This is how they kept their land and didn't lose it for her father's drug addiction. He was out gambling with the prostitutes at night when he should have been at home.
Down in the other holler?
Yeah, he was 2 hollers over at
He was at the Red River holler. I'm going to the Green River holler and going to do me some harlot chasing with my whiskey corn with liquor.
But he had a corn pipe too.
Clay corn.
He found all that weed stuff on the ground and just dried it out and started smoking it. It was better than the tobacco.
And Andrew Jackson, 48 miles away down in Nashville going, damn,
That's some good weed.
That John Bell done gone crazy. He either got him some good weed, some cocaine, or it's a witch.
Or opium.
Or opium, or it's a witch.
So Jackson loaded up, brought the boys down,
They
checked it
cooked
out.
some meth.
He didn't have RVs yet.
He brought his...
This was before RV. We didn't even got to New Mexico yet. Let's not
brought
go
his
there.
witch laird.
Yeah, the dude that sleeps with witches.
With a silver bullet. I thought the silver bullet was for werewolves.
Yeah, I did too.
Like I said...
Maybe it didn't work on the witch. She stopped it with her finger. It didn't penetrate her finger, so he knew it was going to work. Now they use it on werewolves. It had to work
that's
somewhere.
how they figure it out. Maybe this is the beginning of organizing spiritualism.
How do you kill a witch? You have to drop a house on her, right?
Probably.
Or is it water? And melting.
It's water. Holy water.
How did Scooby-Doo kill the witch?
Well, he killed multiple witches. They ended up being their pesky neighbor.
Real, yeah.
Which I think this probably is. Maybe it was Kate, and she was just effing with them.
Maybe.
Like one case says one night water was pouring into their house. And they said Kate went up and drilled holes in the ceiling.
I don't know. I think it's BS. I don't believe it.
It's a great story.
It is a good story.
One of the oldest
and if you it's
ghost witch stories in America.
It's the Bell Witch autobiography, right?
And we just... Yeah.
Bell Witch autobiography.
And we just tipped the iceberg. There's still bells in this area.
Hey, I'm halfway through the book now. It's actually quite interesting. It's comical. I find myself sending this guy a lot of screenshots of things I'm reading because how they talked in 1890, nothing like we talk now. So
well, don't you think them being stuck in the hollow, they were kind of speaking Elizabethan English, kind of like they were during the Revolutionary War?
Think they talk like King Jamesish?
Yeah, they're like, thou ought to bring your corn liquor to me house.
Thou drink thy corn liquor and saw thy witch.
We're going to have a hootenanny with the corn liquor and the Coca-Cola.
You're making fun of our ancestors now.
Half of them. Half of mine.
All of mine.
All of yours.
Well, that's all we got this week.
That's all we got. That is our take on the Bell Witch.
What do you think? Leave us some notes in the comments. Let us
real
know
or
what
fake?
You think. Do you think it's real or do you think it's fake?
I think it's a 200-year-old game of telephone.
Yeah, I do too.
Yep.
Did you play telephone?
When I was a kid, it's kind of died out. My
school?
kids don't know what telephone is.
So we had to do it at school. I can remember our teacher making us.
We sat in a circle.
Yeah.
And the teacher made it up.
I was always the smart aleck kid, though. When it got to me, I changed the crap out of it.
Me too.
Jimmy went to the lake. I was like, oh, Jane went fishing with Jimmy on Mars, and they killed 3 aliens.
Russell still wets his bed at night. That's what I did.
Dude, I was that
Sorry,
guy.
Russell.
I was that.
If you watch this, Russell, you know it was me now.
You can get him now.
Russell H. I'm not going to give his last name.
If you give him 3 minutes, he'll get the last name.
He's a fireman now.
See?
He's in the fire department.
He's going to tell you the guy's life story, but not tell you his last name. But, hey, thanks to everybody who watches and has checked this out. Make sure you share it with your friends. You know, you can find us on the Race Car Backwards Media YouTube page. You can also follow us on Twitter. We're at Car Backwards there. Like I said, make sure you subscribe and share the show with your friends. Shoot us a DM, shoot us a message, leave us a note in the comments section. If you got any questions, we'll be sure to answer them on the show.
Hit the like and the subscribe button right here. Here.
In this area here.
Yeah.
Or wherever it is.
Down.
Like it.
Thumbs up it.
And subscribe.
Shoot, you can email links to your best friend or your worst enemy.
Or
we will take every listener.
If you know any witches, send them this episode.
Just bam.
Maybe they can add some.
Maybe they want to be on the show.
Yeah, we'd love to have a witch on the show.
This is new technology for us. We're
getting smarter, y'all.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not.
Maybe. I mean.
All right, y'all have a great week. We'll see you later.